Sheil Kapadia is here, Ringer NFL show host. You have 5 days a week there, Sheil.
5 days a week. You know, we're upping the ante this year.
I didn't have that kind of stamina when I was the Ringer NFL show host. I was 2 days.
It's August, so check back with me, by like Halloween, and we'll see if I'm still doing it or if I'm, calling you for help.
You just said you're a black coffee guy, which is going to help on the 5 days a week thing.
That's right. The coffee's going strong. It'll be 2 a days pretty soon for me.
How many cups of coffee do you drink?
I am morning always, and then depending on the level of fatigue for a man with 2 kids and, just at my age, maybe a little 2 o'clock pick me up. I would say maybe
That's
3 times a week.
I have so much more coffee than you.
Really?
I think I might drink more coffee than any human being on the planet.
Okay. What do you do? Well, now you have to tell us how much.
I honestly don't know. I just start making coffee and then I drink it. Like I drink coffee over and over again until I get into the late afternoon and I'm like, I should probably start drinking water. And then I chug water. And then that is what keeps me vaguely healthy is I drink so much water after I have to stop drinking coffee.
All right. I know we're going to get to football, but do this. Fill up a big thing of water when you wake up, pound it, and then do the coffee. Listen, the Instagram advice I get nowadays, they all tell me to do this. I do this and I'm feeling good.
Not going to do it. All right. So let's talk about you just did offenses and defenses. You ranked them, which is a very tough thing in our business. Nobody wants to rank anything. I'm glad you did this. I think that there's this thing now where like the tiers thing is such a cop out. And I have a new theory on this that I developed over the summer when I was doing a bunch of TV. I'll probably do TV soon again about where we're ranking stuff. But when you do it over the summer, you're like doing like, best top quarterbacks, top running backs, top wide receivers. Like we're out of ranking season, right? But I think tiers in the NFL have exploded because nobody wants to rank Burrow, Allen, and Lamar. I think it is such a snake pit to do that we now just default to tiers. Am I wrong?
I think you're right. And as our friend Ben Solak would say, people are just afraid to compete sometimes. Well,
also, they don't want to rank Jalen Hurts anywhere.
I can attest, I don't want to rank Jalen Hurts. If you ask me to rank Jalen Hurts, I'll probably just turn the mic off here and say, see you next time.
We're all afraid of ranking Jalen Hurts because if you rank him, I've been surprised. So I saw this I did a get up right like a week after the Super Bowl. And the question was, are the Eagles a dynasty? And I said, probably not, only because they have a great roster and a great GM and all the things. But, I don't believe that Jalen Hurts is on the level of a Josh Allen, a Burrow, all that stuff, right? A Lamar, a Mahomes. And I thought that was like I was like, well, that's a milquetoast comment. Like, what a cop out that was. What a stupid answer that was. Like, why don't you have a take, buddy? And then I checked my mentions, and there are genuine Eagles fans who are like, well, he won the Super Bowl, so yes, he's on that level. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to argue that. I don't know where to start. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know where to start. You don't, just because you win, I understand quarterbacks must be important part. Dallas Goedert does not become the best tight end in football. Like, it doesn't work like that. We don't rank that, Sheil.
This is a very Philadelphia thing, which you've been writing about the NFL and talking about the NFL for a while, so you know this probably. But Philadelphians can say what they want about Jalen Hurts, and they were saying things about Jalen Hurts as late as week 16-ish last year. But then he wins the Super Bowl, and if anybody else says it now, because otherwise Eagles fans were uncomfortable. They're feeling too good. They have a great team. They just won. That's not normal for them, and so now they can attack. I think this has been great for Jalen Hurts' local persona. People now will just defend him for anything. So it's actually been great, I think, for Jalen Hurts locally in Philadelphia that other people are saying, you're not on that level. And now everyone here is like, yes, he is. You don't know ball.
So I would also say that part of that is I think everybody saw how much fun Bills fans had after the Josh Allen leap of just harassing media members and opposing fans and just saying, you were wrong about this. And I think that this is not an Eagles specific point. You see this all the time now when a quarterback gets better. You saw it a little bit with Tua in Miami when he had that breakout season, is they all were just like, well, we were right. Let's go pull. It's really fun to pull up receipts. I would also say your damn Sixers had something to do with this. Remember the after the process, like when they started taking victory laps?
I can't talk
like,
about this.
No, it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is a Sixers point, not an Eagles point. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Eagles ended all arguments. Yeah. The Sixers fans, I remember, because it was like Danny Chow and John Gonzalez and all these guys at the Ringer who were like egging on after they got Markelle Fultz, this retweet Armageddon of everybody doubting the process. And I think it's a unique Philly thing to be like, it's not enough to the Sixers is completely different conversations because the Sixers accomplished nothing, but it's a very unique Philly thing. As you said, like we've found comfort. We need to seek out discomfort.
And I think it's a natural fandom thing too, yes. Not to just like defend yes. your guy, so I like try not to be too jaded where someone's yelling at me, like I did a pod today listing my potential MVP contenders and someone's like, no, Jared Goff. And I'm like, that's cool, man. If I were a Lions fan, I'd probably be like, no, Jared Goff. So it's okay. Fan. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Top offenses. All right, so big question here. And again, this is me trying to back you into a corner. Clip farming. I'm clip farming right now.
Okay.
But you're going to do it. You ranked them, so you have to defend it. You have the Bills number 1 and the Ravens number 2. And the numbers you have in here are very good. But explain to me why you have Bills over Ravens in the simplest terms.
Yeah, it can just be a coin flip type thing. I think the Bills have done it for 3 years in a row. They've been in the top 3. The Ravens earlier in Lamar's career, he did have some injuries, missed 10 games. Those two. I just look at Josh Allen. I'm like, he's the safest bet. And, I don't want to jinx it, Bills fans, but he's so durable. It feels like he can play through anything. That was probably the reasoning for the Bills. But yes, I could have done tiers and put it, but
could have done tiers.
I'm going to compete. And I put Bills 1 and Ravens 2. So I feel good about it.
Now here's the one that's more, and I completely agree with you. It's a coin flip. Like it's not. I was joking about the clip farming thing. It's a distinction without difference, and on any given Sunday, one can be ahead of the other. The Niners being 3rd surprised me after last year because you have the Packers 4th, the Bengals 5th, Lions 6th, Eagles 7th, Chiefs 8th, obviously. I would have put the Niners in the back half of the top 10. Explain.
I don't love, as I'm writing this, every time I look online, another 49ers wide receiver or offensive lineman.
Suspended.
Yeah, has gotten injured. Hurt. That's not great. But here's the case. I think last year we learned more about Brock Purdy than maybe we did any time previously in his career. If you look at the first 10 weeks last year and look at the nerd stats I like to look at, he was behind Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. And that's it. And this wasn't that traditional 49ers offense where you say, Kyle, he's a Kyle Shanahan merchant and he's throwing screens and they're running for 60 yards and he's not doing anything. Like they weren't using a lot of play action. He was throwing the ball downfield. He was under pressure. He was performing on 3rd down. And I thought he was playing really well last year where I was like, wow, he can kind of perform under tough circumstances. Didn't have McCaffrey, Ayuk, Trent Williams missed 6-7 games last season, and he was still playing really well. Then he injured his shoulder in week 10 and didn't play as well down the stretch. But I looked at the Niners last year, and I think it was more about their defense and their special teams and kind of bad luck than it was like Brock Purdy not playing well. So don't ask me when I became a Brock Purdy guy. I was joking. Like I went on vacation in June, July, and I came back and I'm just like, Brock Purdy's going to have a big year. I'm like, what happened to me? Did something happen to me? But I think he's going to have a good year. And I think the Niners are going to have a good year.
Did you go to the Bay Area for vacation? Is that what happened?
Didn't, we did London, Paris. I went to the Pacific Northwest. So I don't know what happened in any of those places, but something happened.
I think there's a big Niners contingent in London. I think
maybe that's it.
Someone told me one time that there's a huge, this is like when they first went over in 2007 to London, that someone from the NFL told me there's a huge contingent of Dolphins and Niners fans over there because they first put the games on for like regular TV in the 80s. And they were like, how do we sell England on football? It's Marino, Montana. It was
Yeah.
just Marino and Montana over and over and over again. So everybody either became a Dolphins fan or a Niners fan, and you were subconsciously bullied by those Niners fans.
Maybe. Yeah. It's entire, jet lag. You're taking walks. You don't know what's going on.
You drinking enough water?
Yeah. Maybe drink enough water. It's entirely possible.
All right. It's funny. We're ranking offenses. We're not ranking quarterbacks. We're not ranking wide receivers. You have the Packers 4th and the Bengals 5th. The Bengals 5th, I think, is going to raise some eyebrows because I think if a casual fan ranks it, Bengals might even be number 1 in conversation with the Ravens and the Bills. Obviously, this comes down to the offensive line. Explain your reservations and kind of what this offense is going to look like this year.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of reservations about the Bengals. I think, you could make the case for them probably as high as 3. I put them at 5. I'm generally very bullish on the Bengals. I feel like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you can almost put any 5 offensive linemen out there with them and any coach out there with them, and the offense is going to be good. We saw it 2 years ago with that group. We saw it even last year. I mean, their offense was excellent last year. So I think they're going to be really good. It is the offensive line. And it's like, how many years in a row can we talk about it where just maybe limits them in certain situations? Overall, the numbers are going to be good, but maybe in a 1-score game on a last possession, that guard situation, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to them again. So yeah, I think they're right there with the other offenses in that tier. I think their offense is going to be great once again.
All right, Lions here. I'm interested in your opinion here about how much was Ben Johnson versus, and we're going to find out, versus how much was Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's become weirdly underrated over the past couple of months. John Morton now is the offensive coordinator. How much is Jared Goff? Amon-Ra St. Brown, the offensive line. I mean, like, if you get the time to throw, you're playing a different sport, and things are going to be pretty easy for you. So I do think the floor is pretty high because of it, because we know Goff's going to have time, and we know Goff can make throws. I don't think it's 2018 Goff where he needs Sean McVay to tell him in the earpiece where to go with the ball.
That ruined his career, that narrative, Jared. It's like no one can say he's good now, because I swear it just goes back to that shaped so much of the narrative about Jared Goff's career. And it wasn't wrong. I mean, it was accurate, but still, if I were him, I'd be like, God, I wish that never happened.
I would love to make $300 million after my career was ruined.
Totally agree.
I made 200. But it's different. It's a different. The narrative on me is still not where it needs to be. So big picture, what do you expect out of this team this year?
Maybe the hardest team to rank in this exercise, because I'm with you. It's like I watched Ben Johnson, and he did seem like a mad scientist that just was running laps around the opponents that they were facing. So I don't want to discount that. Like, there's a scenario where I've got them too high. They fall back. Maybe they're mediocre. Maybe they're 13th or 14th. And we're like, Ben Johnson was awesome. At the same time, I'm kind of with you. If the offensive line is okay, Jared Goff has now done it with different teams, different coordinators, different supporting cast. He's had like an elite offense like 5 times out of the last 8 seasons. He never gets any credit for it. Like, he's a robot, and it's so easy to just go out there if the circumstances are good. So I do think he deserves credit. And I think there's enough around him when you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta and the infrastructure. It's like, don't screw it up. You have a good scheme in place. You might not have like the play calling that Ben Johnson had. So that's why I dinged him a little, but I still looked at the other offenses, and I'm like, I still think they're going to be better than a lot of these teams, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right. And I want to talk really quickly about the Chiefs, and then we'll get to some of my other qualms here. But the Chiefs are ranked 8th on your list. I think that's fair. Like, I don't. It's a weird offense, and Mahomes can't hit the deep ball anymore. And that's a combination of everything. That's the offensive line. That's chemistry with the receivers. It's inaccurate passes himself, which, by the way, stem from the first 2 things I mentioned. Rather than kind of poke holes in the offense, which everybody's been doing for the last couple of months, I'd rather ask you, like, they were a staple in the top 3 for 7 years. Yeah. And even before with Alex Smith, they were like, Alex Smith was the best deep ball passer in football his last year in Kansas City, and nobody seems to remember that. In order for them to get back there, the X factor is what? Is it one guy? Is it the line? Like, take me through it.
I think it's one or the other, the offensive line or the pass catching group. Like, I don't think he needs both. You see with the great quarterbacks, I don't think they always need both. Like Josh Allen, I don't think anyone would look at that pass catching group and be like, man, they're incredible. Lamar Jackson, same thing. And Mahomes, I think the model, if you're a Chiefs fan and you're like, no, they're bouncing back this year, I think you have to look at 2022 when they traded Tyreek Hill. I think people forget this now. They traded Tyreek Hill and Mahomes threw for over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns or whatever it was. And so it's like, if that offensive line, Josh Simmons, if you asked me to name one player, I would probably say if that left tackle can be good, but I'm still a little nervous about all the pieces on the offensive line. But I think if the offensive line can be good, and Rashee Rice is out there when he's not suspended, that can be a version of this Chiefs offense that is better than the last 2 seasons.
I've not checked your mentions. It's the last offense before we switch defense. I've not checked your mentions. I'm going to guess that the biggest reaction you got outside the top 10 would be putting the Vikings at 17. Am I wrong?
I actually have been trying to be better about not checking these types of things.
Oh,
Kevin.
beautiful.
Mental health,
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to put the content out there and move on to the next thing. So I actually couldn't tell you. And it feels great to say that. It feels great to say that.
I've thought about this in relation to college football mostly. And it's not about my takes, it's just about some of the stuff I see online. Is I've realized over the past couple of years maybe that the problem with football discourse is that very few people actually follow football. They just follow their team.
Yeah.
And even that, oftentimes when you're talking about the dregs of Twitter, it's not even that, they're not even that good at following their team. And they overrate people they're familiar with. I'm seeing this a lot in college football where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you've never heard of so-and-so? No, I haven't. He's not going to be a top 100 pick. So I haven't heard of that random defensive tackle. Thank you. He just because he's played 400 snaps for 4 years does not make him good. Anyway, with the Vikings, this is a different scenario. They elevated Sam Darnold a lot last year until the last few games. Dan Orlovsky says it's the easiest place to play quarterback in the entire National Football League because of Kevin O'Connell's playbook. You have Justin Jefferson on top of that. Lord knows what's happening with Jordan Addison, and I guess that he's going to be suspended, and then they're trying to trade for a veteran receiver. We'll see what that ends up looking like. But you have them 17 below the Raiders, the Cardinals. Why?
I thought about putting them higher. I think that the Vikings, that we have a lot of unknowns at quarterback this year. I don't know if it's more than usual, but not just unknowns, but guys who you're like, if this guy's decent, that team or that offense could be really good. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, I think falls into that category. Bryce Young and JJ McCarthy fits into that category. I mean, I agree. It feels like on paper, they improved the interior of their offensive line. I'm with Orlovsky on Kevin O'Connell. I think he's awesome.
Yes,
And I think Justin Jefferson, that's going to make a quarterback's life easier. I do think that we probably overrate the level that Vikings offense got to last year. Like if you look at the advanced stats, they were 15th in a lot of those DVOA, EPA per drive. So it was like they were good. Watching them, you felt like they're hitting on explosives, but they weren't an elite offense last year. And so I looked at it. I think there's a case that they're better this year than they were last year. It's just like, I can't plant a flag on JJ McCarthy's going to be awesome when he's so young, and I haven't seen him play in the NFL yet. So I think they're a high variance offense. If they crack the top 10, that wouldn't shock me. If they were, 20th or lower, because it's hard to be a first-year quarterback in the NFL, that wouldn't shock me either.
Completely agree. It's fair. I just know I am the guy that you don't want to see. I'm the guy who's like prejudging your mentions and talking about fan feedback and all that stuff. I didn't look at your mentions either. So if you didn't look at them and I didn't look at them, no one's looked at your mentions.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right, your defense. What a surprise. You say in your ranking, your first word in the ranking is surprise, because your number one defense in the NFL, Sheil Kapadia, is tell the folks.
Seattle Seahawks, my number one defense. Here's the thing about defense. It's harder to predict from one year to the next. Offense, you look at quarterback, you look at play caller, you feel pretty good about who the top 10 are going to be. I mean, there might be injuries and they might change. Defense is not that way. I mean, the Eagles went from 30th to 1st last year. And so I was looking at these defenses going, who can make a leap? And Mike McDonald is a great defensive coach. We'll see if he's a great head coach, but he's a great defensive coach. The last 3 years, he's produced great defenses. Last year, you look at the Seahawks, the second half of the year, they were really good on defense. Everything was coming together. Their talent is better this year. I think they're talented across the board. So I didn't overthink it. It's like coaching plus scheme plus talent. I think the Seahawks have a chance to be one of the biggest stories, their defense in the NFL this year.
I love that. I think I like the leap projection. And I think Mike McDonald is really smart. I expected this. I don't think that they have the talent level of an Eagles. I don't think they have a talent level of even the Texans. So I don't know. You have the Texans number 2. So if the Texans, this is a geometry problem, right?
Yeah.
The Texans have a top 5 defense. On offense, they have CJ Stroud and a new offensive coordinator. Let's square those. Shouldn't the Texans win the Super Bowl?
How about this take that I've been unveiling? Are the Texans the team everyone thinks the Broncos are, just without Sean Payton's propaganda campaign?
Well, Sean Payton doesn't have a propaganda campaign. He's got a track record of ball knowing.
Okay, but it's like he might call us during this podcast and be like, hey, make sure you mention my team as a Super Bowl contender. I mean, he's been on a rampage this summer. DeMeco Ryans has not. Now, you didn't mention the offensive line for the Texans. So yes. I think that's the big question. But yeah, I mean, they've been in the divisional round in back-to-back seasons. I think their defense is awesome. And what I like about their defense, it's not one of these defenses that just beats up on bad quarterbacks and bad offenses. And you say, hey, their stats are really good. I mean, Josh Allen against the Texans last year, do you remember that game? He went 9 for 30 against the Texans.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. So the Texans defense is awesome. I like CJ Stroud. It's just a huge unknown. I mean, they brought in new offensive linemen who might stink. Like we might be having
they brought in new, not better.
Not better. So
different,
that's why,
not better.
Right. So I think that's the big unknown. New play caller. That's a big unknown. That's why I think, I personally don't have them in the Super Bowl mix, but I don't think you're wrong to say they have a shot at it.
Eagles. You say you had the Eagles offense 7th, right? Is that right?
Yes,
7th.
That's right. 7th. Yep.
And then the Eagles defense 3rd. Why do you hate the Eagles?
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Look, because like the local conversation in Philadelphia about the Eagles is like this second cornerback spot, and like D-line depth. And then I go and I pull up like the Raiders defensive depth chart. Yeah. And I'm like, man, these are first world problems that the Eagles are dealing with. I mean, they have, I think, 4 legit potential all-pros on defense, and Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean. Like that would not shock me. I don't think there would be outrage if those were 4 of the all-pro spots at the end of the season. And I think they have the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. So defense, you usually take a step back from being the top dog. Maybe you have more injuries. You don't get as many turnovers. They face a harder schedule. But man, I still think this is a great defense.
A couple things. I'm looking at the bottom of the list in the contenders. Bengals 30th. Commanders 28th. These are 2 teams with, in theory, Super Bowl aspirations, although I don't think that the Bengals management and ownership are that committed to winning the Super Bowl. Like, I think the Commanders are. I think they would like to. Although they both have outstanding contract situations, just with the Commanders, it's on the opposite side of the ball. Which one of these is more likely to pop? Which team is more likely to have a defense? We don't need nobody's getting to top 5 here of these 2, but top half.
Oh man, that is a tough question. I'm tempted to say the analytical part of my brain wants to say the Bengals, and the reason would be they're playing a bunch of young players. Like they've drafted, I think, 10 defensive players in the first 3 rounds since 2022. So theoretically, young players who get a chance to play, maybe are developed, maybe there's some surprises there in the secondary. My gut instinct was to say the Commanders, because I think Dan Quinn is a pretty good defensive coach, and I think they can maybe play a high variance style like they did in that game against the Lions, where if you look at it, they weren't great down to down, but get those turnovers, create those negative plays, and it's okay if you give up some yards. It's not that big of a deal. So if I had to say, I think I would go more with my gut and say the Commanders would have a better chance. But I have big concerns. I know everybody has concerns about the Bengals defense. I have a lot of concerns about that Commanders defense. I mean, they played a bunch of backup quarterbacks last year. They had good injury luck, and they were still like not a good defense. So I don't know. I think that could be an issue this year where they actually are worse this year defensively than they were last year.
Is there a team or a couple teams, and it could be good or bad, that doing this exercise made you take a second look at what their season outlook is? Whether it's, oh, I thought this team was going to win the division, but they're sub 20 in offense defense, or the opposite, which is, hey, these are two top half units, and I should be picking them to make the playoffs.
The Bears are probably one of them. Now, I'm not picking them to make the playoffs, but I think their defense can be really good. Obviously Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, that's the story. If you look at them defensively, they still have a lot of good players. They pressured the quarterback last year. And I think Dennis Allen, I wouldn't want him as my head coach, but defensive coordinator, I will take him as my defensive coordinator. Like, that guy has seen everything in the NFL. He produced a lot of good defenses with the New Orleans Saints. So yeah, I think the Bears defense could be really good, where their offense doesn't have to be great. Can it reach sort of that middle tier? And now they go into December with a chance to make the playoffs. So that was one. As I was doing this, I didn't go in thinking, man, I'm going to have the Bears as a top 10 defense, but I did end up having them there.
I think the Bears might make the playoffs, dude.
You like them? Okay, you're in.
So,
all right.
I don't know. But listen, man, I thought in May, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Okay,
yeah.
To go to the Super Bowl. And then here's the reason why you don't pick in May, is because Matthew Stafford is being rolled in to an Airstream refrigerator trailer. And every time the reporters are asking the Rams whether or not Matthew Stafford is like working out normally, a team spokesman says, well, Coach McVay will update you on that next week.
Yeah, not great.
And then it's like, well, he's taking first team reps yesterday, and then there's some weirdness around that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't know how the NFC is going to shake out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's probably just going to be the Eagles again. But I also think the Packers might be better. I might be removing the Rams. Am I allowed to do that?
You're allowed to do that. Here's what happens. So we work in the content space year round. You make predictions. You have a set of final predictions that you do before week one.
Yeah.
Those are your official predictions. Now, if you change, I don't want to see, if the Rams make the Super Bowl, a clip of, Kevin Clark called this in May, because I'll call you out. That wasn't your final prediction. So
you will not call me out because you don't read Twitter.
True. Well,
you won't see it.
Yeah. All right. Somebody will, who's listening to
Solak
this.
will. One time I don't know if I ever told you the story. I was at a camp, and this GM came up to me, and he knew I went to Miami, and he was like, man, Miami's talent level is just killing it. Their recruiting is just killing it. They have so many NFL bodies. And I called Solak about something else, some work thing. And I told him that story because he's a draft guy, as we know. This is 3 years ago. And he said, if you put on Twitter that a GM told you Miami's killing recruiting, I'm going to be in your mentions calling it fake. He's like, I just want you to know, I know it's real, but it's such an annoying thing to do. Yeah. I'm going to call you out and accuse you of having made it up. So you always need friends who are in your mentions being like, if you tweet this, I will come down on you hard. That's accountability among friends, and which we all are.
It's a great life lesson, not only for this, just in general. You're wearing some weird shirt, you're trying some weird haircut. Your friends can't be like, oh yeah, it looks pretty. They could be like, dude, you're not going out with that. What do you need?
What are you doing?
They should teach this at middle school, high school. No one teaches you that. You got to learn it on your own. But then I see people out in the real world, they've never learned it, and I feel bad for them.
Controversial take. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. We had too much bullying.
Agree.
Maybe we need 5% more bullying than what we have now. But among friends.
It's different. It's
among friends. Yes. Just like, hey, man.
Accountability. PR.
The hat.
Not bullying.
The hat, the fedora is not, no one, you're not pulling off the fedora.
You're not pulling it off.
You're not pulling it off. So friendlier bullying, 5% more.
Okay. I'm going to call it accountability to save you. I don't want you, I don't want you to make a headline. I don't want you to get canceled. So we're going to call it friendship accountability is the official term.
Friendship accountability.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to that end, I kind of feel better about the Packers than the Rams. I don't know. I just think maybe it's just going to be the Eagles again. Maybe it's going to be the Niners. You got the Niners, the third best team.
Yeah.
I'm just so upset because I thought the Rams were going to take a leap. The front seven is really good with a lot of young guys. They had, I want to remember the stat about the Rams. They had the top 2 rookies in like duo in pressures. Okay, obviously Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, and that was the record I think since Next Gen Stats started tracking, and they broke the record of the rookie duo on the Rams the year before.
Yeah.
So that's how you build a Super Bowl contender, is you just keep drafting front 7 guys and they keep hitting, and all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is on his back and it's 42 pressure, whatever it was, 42 pressure, 0 blitzes, whatever. That's how you do it. And I thought the Rams were setting up for it. And now Matthew Stafford, they're hiding something from us.
Yeah. Devontae Adams, they added.
Yes.
Young pass rush. Yeah, they had
Healthy Puka.
It's what the NFC's wide open. Yeah, I think there was absolutely a case for the Rams. And then you're like, wait, should I have seen this coming? The fact that Matthew Stafford, they sat him in week 18 last year. They didn't care about seeding. They needed to get him right. And then they kind of let him look for a trade in the offseason. Was there stuff that they knew? Was that just a negotiating tactic? I think on any given week, Matthew Stafford can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Are they going to be able to get him through a 17-week season? I am not sure.
I can't believe this. My Super Bowl pick. Every time they ask Sean McVay about Matthew Stafford, he's like, we're so lucky to have Jimmy Garoppolo. You know how the fantasy guys this time of year all just read into quotes too much? Like the only quotes that are actually telling are Sean McVay's quotes and non-quotes about Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, they can't even hide it anymore. I mean, we are in the 3rd week of August here, and there's still no resolution.
All right. All of this is going to get dumped when the Rams make the Super Bowl. Sheil Kapadia, Ringer NFL Show, ringer.com. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Thanks for having me.